Okay, welcome to the channel. We're gonna play the King's Pawn opening. E4, E5. Okay, now we're gonna play the Scotch game. If he takes with the pawn, I'll take with the knight. And then when he takes, I'll take with the queen. If he accepts the knight trade. Okay, so he does not accept the knight trade, so we are going to take. If he takes like this, we can take his queen. He does not. So now we're going to attack his knight. He does have doubled up pawns, which is not always good, because you do have an extra pawn that is now blocked by your own piece. Okay, so he blocks the threat from the knight by pinning the pawn to the king. We can defend that by going bishop to g5. That's then pinning. So that's now pinning the knight to the queen. Okay, so he goes pawn h6. Now we're gonna take with the bishop. If he takes, okay. So now we can go queen e2. He's probably going to take the pawn on e5. We can also go knight d2 or knight c3. And then castle. So he takes with the queen, so now we can do a queen trade on e5. So now we're gonna go knight c3, bringing out our knight. He still has those doubled up pawns. Okay, so now he's bringing out his bishop to g7. We can bring out our bishop to c4 from f1 to c4. Okay, so he brings out his pawn from d7 to d5. We can bring back our bishop back to d3. He can go right. So he went e4, and we can just keep backing up our bishop. So if he goes d4, which he does, we can simply just take the pawn on e4. Okay, so he brings out his bishop to f5, threatening our knight. We can defend that by going bishop d3. Takes. That'll be an even trade, and then I can go bishop c6, forking the king and the rook on a8. Okay, so he's taking a little bit of time to think about it. After the trade, if he so he defends his rook by castling. We can also castle. Then we might have to bring the king back. Okay, so he slides his rook from h8 to e8, and then we can go rook e1. Okay, so now we can just take the pawn that he pushed on c5. He may also do a rook trade or a bishop trade. If he does do a bishop trade, it's good to take with the knight instead of the pawn. Or you could also take with the rook, because if you take with the pawn, you'll leave a gap in the king, and your king will be exposed. He can also play bishop f6, then g5. putting a check. So right now, his bishop is actually out in the open. Okay, so he defends his bishop. So now we can actually go rook trade. If he takes that, we can take that. And then when he takes, we take his bishop. But I think he's just gonna go, okay, so he does. Okay, so now we can go rook d8 and then take that bishop. So now we're up +4 in material. We can also go pawn c6, pawn b4, pawn a4, or even pawn c4 to try and get our pawns out to get ready to promote to queens. Same thing on this side. He does have a little bit of a structure here, but we are up one pawn, and we're up a pawn and a knight. Okay, so he goes from king d8 to e7. Now we can go. So now we can start pushing our pawns on. Okay, so now he's bringing his king over. We can also threaten his pawns. We can threaten the pawn on f7. He cannot take this knight because it's protected. Okay, so he moved down his pawn. We can also start bringing up our pawn on the a file. The c file is a little bit challenging. Okay, so we can also give him a check on b7, whereas he's on d6. Okay, so he defends. We can give him another check while he's on c6, and we're on d8. If he goes here, we can give him another check forking. No, it's not forking because that's protected. So now we can, and that's a pawn checkmate. Look at that. That's not something you see every time. Pawn checkmate. Thank you for watching The Chess Guy. We hope you enjoyed.